It was supposed to be a flawless royal evening. But when Laura Lopes, Camilla's daughter, arrived dressed in diamonds and defiance, Prince William made a move that shocked the monarchy. In front of hundreds of cameras and guests, he had her expelled from the royal event, on record, and with Princess Anne's full backing. What followed wasn't just scandal. It was royal reckoning. A forged title, a secret media campaign, and a confrontation that shook King Charles to his core. What did Laura do that forced the future king's hand? And how deep did Camilla's plan go? Let's break it down. The night everything changed. On the evening of October 3rd, 2025, Buckingham Palace glittered under chandeliers as more than 300 guests gathered for a high-profile royal function. Dignitaries arrived between 6:30 p.m. and 7:15 p.m., their names checked carefully by palace security. Then Laura Lopes, daughter of Queen Camilla, stepped onto the marble floor wearing a pale blue gown and a confident smile. Her badge read, Special Assistant to the Queen Consort. That title did not exist in any royal registry. Not in 2024, not in 2025, not ever. Yet there she was, walking as if she belonged. Laura was escorted directly to a seat beside Prince Edward, a position traditionally reserved for blood royals and senior working members. Palace aides froze. This seat placement alone broke protocol established over 70 years. Whispers spread fast. Princess Anne, who had personally reviewed the final seating chart on September 29, 2025, noticed immediately. In the version she approved, Laura's name appeared 42 rows lower, without any title and without special access. Someone had moved her. Someone had rewritten the rules. By the next morning, October 4th, Prince William returned from a Windsor engagement that ended at 8:40 a.m. He was handed newspapers before breakfast. The Times, the Daily Telegraph, and Hello all ran glowing mentions of Laura, calling her modern, graceful, and quietly influential. William read each line slowly. He had seen this before. Since 2020, he had learned to spot media choreography. This wasn't coincidence. This was placement. This was strategy. William requested the guest documentation by 10:15 a.m. As he compared notes with Anne later that afternoon, one truth became clear. Laura's appearance was not an accident. It was a deliberate insertion into royal imagery. And once someone places themselves in royal optics, they rarely stop at one event. For William and Anne, this night wasn't just awkward. It was a warning. The seating alone would have been enough to raise alarms, but protocol violations don't happen in isolation. They leave paper trails. Titles must be approved. Lists must be signed. And when Anne and William placed the official guest records side by side, they realized something far more serious had occurred. This wasn't a breach of etiquette. It was documentation tampering. And once royal records are altered, the issue becomes not social, but constitutional. The forged list. On October 5, 2025, Princess Anne requested the original event guest list from Palace Archives. The first version, dated September 29th, was clean, properly authorized, and digitally sealed at 3:12 p.m. Laura Lopes appeared without a title and without special placement. But the second version, printed on October 2nd at 11:47 p.m., told a very different story. Laura's name had been elevated. A new title had appeared, and her seating position had shifted dramatically. The timing was suspicious. Edits made after 11:30 p.m. were rare and required high-level access. Prince William immediately noticed the approval signature at the bottom. King Charles III. At first glance, it looked authentic, but William had reviewed thousands of royal documents since 2018. Something felt wrong. The curve of the C, the spacing, the pressure. That's not my father's hand, William said quietly. Anne didn't hesitate. She had known Charles's signature since 1973. She examined 3 verified samples from June, July, and September 2025. The inconsistencies were subtle but consistent. A forensic metadata review confirmed it. The document had been altered from a terminal inside Clarence House, not Buckingham Palace. That meant access from the Queen Consort's office. When IT logs were pulled at 2:20 p.m., a name surfaced: Simon Farley, Camilla's aide for over 30 years. He had accessed the file 6 times on October 2nd, including final edits after 10:30 p.m. The forged signature sealed the truth. This wasn't confusion. It was fabrication. For William and Anne, the line had officially been crossed. Forging a royal signature isn't just unethical, it's a breach of trust that shakes the monarchy itself. But documents don't alter themselves. Someone had executed this carefully, confidently, and without fear of consequences. That raised the next question. Was this an isolated act, or part of something larger? As Anne and William dug deeper, the answer surfaced quickly, and it pointed straight toward a coordinated media operation already in motion. The signature that shouldn't exist. By October 6, 2025, Anne and William were deep inside the palace archive room, reviewing printer logs, access times, and authentication trails. The forged approval bore King Charles's name, but failed under scrutiny. The angle of the S, the pressure indentation, and the loop spacing differed from verified samples dated September 25, July 3, and June 14, 2025. Forensic handwriting consultants confirmed the finding by 4:05 p.m. The signature was not Charles's. Attention turned fully to Simon Farley. When summoned that evening at 6:30 p.m., Farley claimed he had only proofread documents, but his access record told a different story. 6 edits, 2 late-night print commands, 1 unauthorized approval. Printer logs showed Laura's credentials were printed from Clarence House at 11:52 p.m., just 15 minutes before final distribution. Anne didn't raise her voice. She didn't need to. "This came from Camilla's wing," she said flatly. The implications were severe. Forging a sovereign's approval is considered sacrosanct within royal law. It undermines legitimacy, not just authority. William understood this instantly. Since 2022, he had been preparing for kingship, learning where tradition ends and danger begins. This was danger. If unchecked, Laura's presence would normalize an invented role inside the monarchy. By nightfall on October 6th, William and Anne reached the same conclusion. This was no one-off maneuver. It was an opening move. And if they didn't stop it now, the next event wouldn't involve a forged title. It would involve influence, power, permanence. The decision was made quietly. They would investigate everything, and they would act, publicly if necessary. The secret media campaign to rebrand Laura. By October 6, 2025, the pattern became impossible to ignore. Laura Lopes was suddenly everywhere. Within 48 hours, glowing profiles appeared in Tatler, Hello, and The Evening Standard. Each article praised her as modern, measured, and naturally royal. What caught Prince William's attention wasn't just the praise, It was the repetition. Entire phrases mirrored language used during Camilla's 2009 public image rehabilitation, right down to sentence structure. William flagged 3 identical descriptors across 4 publications. This wasn't journalism. It was coordination. Princess Anne reviewed the press clippings late on October 6th, around 9:30 p.m. She recognized the tactic instantly. During her 50 years of royal service, she had seen image campaigns rise and fall. This one followed a familiar formula. No bold titles, no loud declarations, just quiet inevitability. They want people to accept her before asking why she's there, Anne said. That night, she instructed aides to pull internal communication logs linked to media outreach from mid-September 2025. Those logs revealed something damning. On September 18, 2025, Laura Lopez had met privately with a boutique PR firm known for reputation recovery and discreet narrative shaping. The meeting lasted 1 hour and 47 minutes. The agenda wasn't charitable work or event support. It focused on future relevance and organic integration into royal imagery. William read the notes himself at 7:10 a.m. the next morning. Laura hadn't been elevated accidentally. She had been positioned deliberately. Even more troubling was the timeline. The PR discussions began 2 weeks before the Buckingham Palace event. That meant the forged title wasn't the start of the campaign, it was the launch. The press coverage was pre-written. The seating placement was symbolic. Someone had designed a story arc where Laura Lopes appeared royal, without ever being declared royal. For William, that crossed from ambition into manipulation. At this point, speculation was no longer enough. Documents, press language, and timing told part of the story, but proof required deeper access. Princess Anne understood this better than anyone. She knew that confronting Camilla without airtight evidence would fracture the family and fail legally. So instead of confrontation, she chose investigation. Quiet, methodical, invisible. And what she uncovered next transformed suspicion into certainty. Anne launches a silent royal investigation. On October 7th, 2025, Princess Anne initiated what palace insiders later called a silent audit. No announcements, no formal council. She summoned a senior royal archivist who had served under Queen Elizabeth II since 1984. Together, they reviewed digital access logs, server metadata, and document version histories dating back 30 days. Every edit to the event file traced back to one access point: the Queen Consort's office at Clarence House. Security footage added another layer. At 10:39 p.m. on October 2nd, CCTV cameras captured Laura Lopes entering a restricted east corridor inside Buckingham Palace. She was escorted by Simon Farley. That corridor led directly to King Charles's private study, a space strictly off-limits when the monarch is absent. Charles had been in Scotland that night. Anne paused the footage at 10:42 p.m., staring at the screen. She was inside, Anne said quietly. She had no right to be. Financial records followed. On September 18, 2025, a payment of £75,000 was authorized from Camilla's discretionary fund. The recipient, a PR consultancy specializing in image rehabilitation. The payment was flagged internally as consultation services, but its timing matched Laura's first media appearances exactly. That wasn't coincidence. It was coordination. Anne forwarded the file to William at 3:18 p.m. His reply was immediate. "That's our link." By the evening of October 7th, Anne and William had a complete chain. Forged documents, unauthorized access, coordinated press, financial backing. This was no longer a misunderstanding. It was an operation. Anne summarized it simply. They're not breaking protocol. They're bending the monarchy. The next question wasn't if to act. It was how public the response needed to be. Evidence has weight, but public perception has power. Anne and William understood that exposure alone wouldn't stop the campaign. Whoever was behind this had already moved into the media battlefield. And as if on cue, the narrative shifted. The spotlight turned away from Laura's credentials and directly onto Prince William himself. What followed was a calculated attempt to weaken the future king. The media war against William begins. The first attack appeared on October 8, 2025, in the Daily Mirror. An opinion piece accused Prince William of sidelining Camilla and blocking her influence within royal circles. Within 24 hours, similar narratives surfaced in The Guardian and Sky News online. The language was nearly identical. Phrases like emotionally distant and out of step with modern monarchy appeared 6 times across 3 outlets. Anne recognized the script instantly. Same playbook as 2005, she said. William didn't respond publicly. Instead, he acted quietly. On October 9th, he hired a digital forensics analyst from the Royal Communications Office and consulted his personal legal advisor. Together, they traced the media sourcing. One firm kept appearing behind the scenes. Whisper Strategies, a reputation management company known for discreet narrative shaping. Financial tracing revealed a £41,200 payment from an anonymous account linked to Clarence House on the same day Laura's most flattering interview was published. The breakthrough came later that night. At 8:55 p.m., an insider from Whisper Strategies contacted William's office. The source feared legal exposure. According to a recorded briefing from September 20th, 2025, Laura Lopes herself had attended the strategy meeting. She wasn't passive. She was directive. "We need the public to feel the crown is shifting," she allegedly said. "William represents the past." The transcript matched the media tone exactly. Anne read the transcript in silence. Then she closed the folder. "She's not being pushed," Anne said. "She's pushing." William nodded. The campaign wasn't just Camilla protecting her child. It was Laura advancing herself. And now, with proof in hand, William made his decision. "We take this to my father," he said. "He deserves to know who's been moving pieces in his name." The moment. William and Anne confront King Charles. On the morning of October 10, 2025, Prince William and Princess Anne arrived at Buckingham Palace, each carrying a leather dossier. The mood was ice cold. Inside the private study, beneath a portrait of Queen Elizabeth II, King Charles waited, unaware of the full storm about to hit. William placed the forged guest lists side by side on the desk. "Look at the signature," he said. Anne stood quietly as Charles examined the time-stamped edits from October 2nd, made while he was in Scotland. Charles's expression shifted as photographic evidence was laid before him. Laura Lopes, clearly entering his private study, escorted by Simon Farley on security footage. Charles whispered, "I was never told." Anne opened her folder next. The £75,000 payment record, media drafts, the Whisper Strategies PR contract, and Farley's digital access logs. It wasn't suspicion anymore. It was proof, cold and unshakable. Laura's rise wasn't accidental. It was engineered from inside Clarence House. Moments later, Camilla was called in. She entered calmly, but hesitated when William read the September 20th transcript of Laura's private PR meeting. Her defenses cracked. "I only wanted her protected when you take the throne," she admitted quietly. The silence was louder than any scream. Charles sat back in his chair, stunned. William didn't shout. He simply said, "You endangered the crown to protect your child." Anne's voice cut like steel. "You didn't protect her. You endangered everything this family stands for." The confrontation ended not with a royal decree, but a broken silence and a king who realized the enemy had been inside the gates. With Camilla's quiet confession and Charles left stunned by undeniable evidence, the royal family knew the damage could no longer be contained behind closed doors. It was no longer just a family matter. It had become a constitutional crisis. William and Anne prepared for the next step, an official gathering of the Royal Council. What had once been a hidden maneuver by Camilla's camp was now going to be placed under full scrutiny, with the future of the monarchy hanging in the balance. The Royal Council meets. On October 12, 2025, the Royal Council convened inside the chamber at St. James's Palace. This was the monarchy's war room. Present were the Archbishop of Canterbury, Dame Judith MacAndrew of the Privy Purse, and military heads of protocol, all watching as William walked in with Anne beside him. On the screens they presented security footage, metadata logs, forged documents, and that damning PR pitch Laura made in secret. Camilla sat stiffly. Laura was pale, her hands shaking. They were not allowed to speak at first. William presented the evidence chronologically, September 18th to October 9th, showing a pattern of forged identity, media influence, and financial abuse. When Laura was finally allowed to speak, she broke. She blamed the advisors. "I was used to defend my mother," she sobbed. But Anne stepped forward with the final blow. An email Laura wrote herself saying, "Make William look cold and out of step. I'll do the rest." The chamber gasped. Even Camilla turned toward her daughter in disbelief. "You were never supposed to go that far," she said in a sharp whisper. That betrayal was the nail in the coffin. A daughter had tried to hijack the royal order, and a mother had let her. It wasn't just a breach of trust. It was royal sabotage. The council called for a recess. No verdict was given out loud, but every face said the same thing. The truth had shattered the illusion. William and Anne had done the unthinkable. They forced the monarchy to face its own reflection. While the council deliberated, a quiet decision had already taken root in William's heart. This couldn't just end in silence. There needed to be action, visible, final, and symbolic. And it had to come from him. A title meant nothing if the heir couldn't defend the line. Camilla's silence was damning. Laura's intentions were now exposed. And so William made his move, not in anger, but in duty. The next royal event would not include Laura. In fact, she wouldn't make it past the front gate. William expels Laura from the royal event. On October 15th, the Commonwealth Future Gala was held at Windsor Castle, a prestigious gathering with leaders from 32 nations. The guest list had been finalized. Laura Lopes's name was not on it. But she arrived anyway, dressed in a navy gown, posing confidently for photographers. She walked toward the gate expecting applause. Instead, she was stopped. "Your credentials are invalid," said a royal security officer. That was it. The moment the world didn't see, but everyone inside knew about. Inside the palace, William and Anne watched the security feed from a private viewing room. William had made the final call 2 nights earlier. Anne fully supported it. There would be no confrontation, no shouting match, just a closed gate. It wasn't just punishment, it was protocol restored. And the message was clear. The House of Windsor was not for sale, and not for rewriting. Camilla did not attend. Rumors swirled about illness, but insiders knew she had been advised to stay away. King Charles made no move to override William's order. That silence was royal permission. William took the stage later that evening and delivered a speech that echoed through the marble halls. Tradition must evolve, but never be rewritten by whispers. Those words were arrows aimed at shadows. The audience never knew what had happened outside. But within palace walls, the statement had been made. The bloodline had defended itself, not with force, but with truth. And from that moment, Laura Lopes was no longer a royal figure. She was a royal exile. Laura's public removal marked a turning point, but the wound wasn't fully closed. A final reckoning had to occur. William had acted as heir, but now he needed to speak as a son, to the monarch who had allowed the deception to grow unchecked. The final conversation wasn't about protocol or even Camilla. It was about truth and inheritance, about what legacy meant when trust had been shattered from within. And so William requested one last private meeting with his father. This would be the final silence. A final silence between father and son. October 18th, 2025. The library inside Buckingham Palace was empty except for 2 men, King Charles and Prince William. No aides, no folders, no protocols. William entered quietly and stood by the window, staring out over the palace gardens. Charles sat with a journal once owned by Queen Elizabeth, his hands trembling slightly. He looked up. "She wanted power," William said. "I want truth." Charles nodded. "I was blind to it. I trusted her, but now I see." The air between them was heavy, not with rage, but with sorrow. William didn't demand consequences. He didn't ask for exile. He asked for something far harder: honesty. The people need to know where we stand. No more secrets. Let this be the end of it. Charles agreed to one thing. Laura Lopes would never attend royal events again. No press release, no scandal, just quiet removal. Camilla would remain queen consort, but with clipped wings. There would be no rewriting of the line, no second chances. William accepted it without celebration. "Then that's all," he said softly. Before leaving, he placed one hand on Charles's shoulder. No crown, no title, just father and son. A line had been defended, a legacy preserved. But the cost had left marks that wouldn't fade. And so, the monarchy moved on, not with loud victories, but in whispered decisions behind heavy doors. William had shown the world something rare in royal history: that silence can be power, and truth can stand taller than tradition. What we witnessed wasn't just a guest being turned away. It was Prince William drawing a permanent line, a decision decades in the making. For years, the crown has been caught in quiet wars: tradition versus ambition, truth versus optics. And this time, ambition lost. By publicly expelling Laura Lopes, William didn't just react to one act of betrayal, he responded to a systematic attempt to reframe royal hierarchy. A forged guest list, a non-existent title, a media campaign designed to elevate Camilla's daughter into public royalty. But William knew exactly what was at stake. Not just reputation, but the future integrity of the monarchy. And he wasn't alone. Princess Anne, the unshakable daughter of Queen Elizabeth II, stood firmly by William's side. She recognized the danger. She saw through the manipulation. And her support, silent but strong, meant everything. Behind palace walls, the aftermath was even more serious. King Charles, once passive, now forced to see the consequences of tolerating personal agendas within the royal machine. No public fallout came for Camilla, but the private consequence was clear. Laura Lopez was removed, for good. There will be no press release, no public apology. But make no mistake, the monarchy has shifted. William has shown the world that being future king means more than duty. It means drawing hard lines to protect what matters most. And with Anne beside him, he proved something else. The bloodline knows how to defend itself. This wasn't just about a gala. It was about power, legacy, and trust. And in the end, William didn't just protect the crown. He reminded everyone who it truly belongs to.